Jeremy.
I'm Ashu.
We are the co-founders of Make School, and we're here today to tell you about our summer academies. This summer is the 6th time that we're offering it, and that means that we have now half a decade of stories to tell about how it all came about, how it came together, and why it exists. So we're going to go a little bit into the history and then take questions from the audience about the program and what to expect. So Ashu, two of us in a house in Palo Alto, 2012. How did the Summer Academy come about?
Sure. So dating back a little bit, Jeremy and I actually went to high school together, and we both had the unique experience of, at young ages, learning how to build apps and actually shipping them out to the App Store. And my app was a game called Helicopter, sold about 50,000 copies in the App Store.
My game was called War Squared, made it with a couple of friends, and it was featured by Apple in the games section. It was on the front page for a week. Didn't make as much money as Ashu, so not quite as popular in those teenage years, but both of us were teens, both of us had apps in the App Store, and this transformed everything because we had been used to, being in school where everything that you're doing and being measured on is for something that is disconnected to reality. And the App Store was the first time that we had an opportunity to publish something that put skills we cared about. We were both into programming and product development, and it actually allowed us to push it out there in the real world, sitting side by side with apps made by real companies. And so in the morning, we wake up, and the first thing we do is check our download numbers, our reviews. And the only all-nighter literally I pulled in college at MIT was to push an update to my app, not to work on my problem sets. So it gives you a sense for kind of this epiphany we had in our teenage years as to how transformational it could be to launch an app, to build a product from scratch and actually have it out there in the App Store. And we saw there were missed opportunities in the way CS was being taught. Given that the App Store now existed, given that Heroku now exists, why can't we be teaching computer programming, computer science, and product development by teaching students how to make things that are real instead of just, filling out assignments that a teacher is going to review?
When it comes to the education side of learning computer science, there was something that for me stuck out a lot, which was when building an app, there was this feeling of addiction that was caused by actually working on something that was an idea in your head and trying to get it out there to real people. And the satisfaction you gain both through the process itself of coding every single day, working on features that you think someone is going to like, and actually then having the reward of people writing reviews from all around the world saying, I'm happy to have paid you for this product. I'm happy to have used this product every day. It means something. It's a part of my life. That satisfaction made students much more engaged and made us much more engaged with our learning, and it was something we wanted to bring to the Summer Academy. And the second piece is when you think about your potential career in computer science, and a lot of you are thinking about, hey, I might want to go become a software engineer one day. It seems like they're pretty cushy jobs making high salaries. And what was so amazing for us is that as soon as we had built and shipped this app, we suddenly had companies knocking on our doors for internship and job offers when we were 18, 19 years old. And it was crazy to think that just this one summer or this one experience of having built an app was enough to get us to a point that we were highly in demand in one of the most well-paid professions in the world.
And the funny thing about that is a couple of years later, we had a group of students in our second Summer Academy, 2013. I still remember them if they're watching. Hello, but Tolga and Kevin, and they were rising freshmen in high school, so like 14 years old. They went through our program, they launched their own apps, and then the next summer, they were able to land paid iOS internships. And it was unbelievable, I think, that they hadn't necessarily early in the conversations disclosed that they were so young, but they were able to convince Silicon Valley startups, and they're both from Palo Alto, to hire them as iOS developers. And this all comes down to the fact that there's a disconnect between what companies want right now, what students want, and what the education systems are providing. And so one way to think about the Summer Academy, which we started in 2012, is as a supplement to traditional education. So it's something that students do during their summer break. We get about even numbers of high school and college students, folks who typically are already programming, but some of them have never programmed before. And we're trying to help students recreate the transformational experience that Ashu and I had by having an idea, allowing them to design, program, and launch their own app. And this has proven year over year to be something that really unlocks a lot of potential in folks. It makes you realize what truly motivates you, and oftentimes for people, grades are some kind of motivator. It's an extrinsic motivator, but wanting to see your idea real and out in the real world is an intrinsic motivator that is far more powerful. So 2012, tell us, how do we spin this thing up? What did it look like? What is the Summer Academy back in 2012, and what is it today? I think a funny thing to talk about.
Yeah, so the first year we decided to go out and teach other high school students like ourselves to build apps. We actually first went back to, in January of 2012, went back to our old high school and taught a course of about 12 students who were taking an advanced computer science course, just to see, can we actually build curriculum that can teach people to build polished apps? And will students like it? Will they be engaged with it? So I had some success with that first cohort of 12 students. So then we toured around different high schools. Jeremy and I knocked on different doors of local high schools in the Bay Area near Palo Alto, where we grew up. And asked the teachers, hey, can we pitch to your students that we can invite them to our summer program where they'll learn how to build iPhone apps. They take an AP Computer Science, and from there we want to teach them to build an actual product to get them in the App Store. So we invited about 30 high school students from around the area into our living room that first summer.
Living room. Like, our office was our living room. So our commute was to roll out of bed, roll into our clothes, and then like stumble out into the living room where the desks were set up and students would arrive every morning. And I'd like to note that we always joke that the only reason it was possible to start Make School is that the Social Network movie had come out, and everyone had seen this movie about the history of Facebook. And Facebook, I mean, Mark Zuckerberg's house was literally around the corner from the house that we were in. And in the Facebook movie, it was the first mass culture exposure to the idea that a real company could start in a living room, and they actually showed it happening on screen. And so parents were shockingly comfortable with dropping off their teenage kids to our living room every day for that summer in 2012. And it was an amazing experience. And I cut you off. Tell us what it all turned into.
Yeah. So a day in the life of what the Summer Academy was back then was we had built these online tutorials where students would go and learn how to clone simple games like Conway's Game of Life and Angry Birds. And from there, they would get started working on their own original products. And once they were working on their own products, we helped them. We helped them scope out their ideas. And back then, Jeremy and I were the only teachers, so students would just raise their hand anytime they had questions. And our job was to unstuck them effectively. When they had a problem that they couldn't face, we would help debug it. And the goal of this was, let's try to accelerate the experience of them learning how to build apps on their own. If they were working in their living rooms like Jeremy and I were or in our bedrooms by ourselves, we had this very difficult process to learn the things that we needed to learn in order to ship an app, because we didn't have any mentors or any coaches, and we figured, why not just take that same experience, but then add me and Jeremy as these unblockers, and teach students anything that they get stuck with, concepts, help them debug, and so on and so forth. And what was most surprising about that summer was you had these 30 students, and you ended up with about 15 to 20 amazingly polished games that ended up on the App Store. We helped the students design some art for the games to help them look better, and it was surprising how close these games came to something like an Angry Birds quality or whatever it might be. And that was
unbelievable.
Yeah.
When you think about learning how to program in a real-world context, so the way that you're going to have to do it at a job, there's challenges that are conceptual, understanding how to do certain things with code that require you to learn mathematical or theoretical concepts, or maybe just how things are structured in the Apple frameworks that they provide you to build apps. But there's also all these little small gotchas. Small gotchas because you made a typo, but it's hard to detect and the code won't run. Small gotchas because some configuration file is not set up correctly. Some small gotchas because the app is not behaving the way that you want it to, and you just can't figure out why when you touch in the bottom left corner, the thing in the bottom right corner activates, right? And the accumulation of these small gotchas are some of the largest barriers to really learning software engineering and computer science and learning how to develop products and be a professional. And so what we set out really to do by being these unblockers is to teach in a way that wasn't, one-to-many lecturing, but that simulated essentially the way that you would actually tackle a problem at work. Because if you're at a Silicon Valley company today, software engineering is very social. I mean, there's no app that you use probably that's being made by only one person, or it's very rare. I mean, like Messenger is being worked on by hundreds, maybe thousands of people. And so when you run into a problem, you have to break down that problem, learn how to try to solve it yourself. And then if you can't solve it yourself, you have to learn how to present that problem to whoever is going to be your unstucker. At Make School in 2012, that was Ashu and I. Today, it's a team of instructors from all over the world. But that experience translates very well to the real world, and also really helps you unblock yourself later when you want to work on further apps and further websites and so on and so forth. And so when our students come to us and they talk about the edge that they get from the program, and today the program is half high school, half college students. In 2012, it was all high school students. What they tell us is that when they enter their first internship or their first CS class, their ability to overcome hurdles and actually get as close as possible to finishing a product in a self-sufficient way is just leaps and bounds ahead of what their peers had. And that's because, instead of sitting through lectures, they were there building, and when they got stuck, raising their hands and getting help from an instructor. And that's one of the things we've preserved to this day. The Summer Academy, when you walk in, it looks more like a co-working space than a classroom. You walk in and you see desks, room full of desks, students sitting together, and sometimes it's even hard to spot where the instructors are because they're rotating, sitting side by side with students, and you might confuse an instructor and a student for just two students pair programming because the instructors are integrated so well with the students and acting more of these unstuckers than they are acting as formal lecturers. And now we have a couple lectures in certain topics as well, but very light compared to any sort of traditional school, and primarily one-on-one interaction or small group interaction, working through programming problems, concepts, and blockers to overcome. We have a question, by the way, what does the program entail for a high school attendee? And I think that actually gave you a pretty good answer. Yeah. We should mention that in that course in 2012 and to this day, there was a sort of 50-50 breakdown. In the first half of the course, you went through these tutorials that Ashu mentioned. You cloned, Conway's Game of Life and Angry Birds. Today, we also offer different tracks. So if you're doing the apps track, you might learn how to clone an app like Instagram. And then the second half of the course, you're developing your own original app, and you're drawing upon what you learned in the first half to build whatever app you want to build. And so that's why the program has this big focus on designing, programming, and launching an app, because you learn in the first half how to do it by cloning, and the second half by making your own. And the mix of those experiences is very unique compared to any other program that's available out there.
Another big component of the program is not just the technical aspects of how to build and ship an app, but the product design components. So especially towards the latter half when you're starting to work on your own original project, we work through brainstorming exercises where you learn how to think about what kind of products you might build based on what kind of impact you want to have, what kind of things you want to learn. We walk through user experience design, how to design an app that is very easy and compelling and sticky and engaging for the user. And we walk through marketing and monetization, analytics, the wrappers around the technical aspects of actually coding the app that would help you learn and understand what it takes for an app to be successful in the real world. These days, when you have software engineering jobs, you can't just be thinking about how to code features properly based on what features someone else has told you to do. You have to be able to think yourself about, is this the best user experience for the product? How can I design this and code this in such a way that it makes it does a better job for the user and really accomplishes the broader business's goals with this app? And we teach a lot of this, some with our internal curriculum, but some with bringing in guest speakers from cool companies who are software engineers, founders at startups in Silicon Valley.
PMs.
Product managers.
Designers.
And you end up getting a taste of what life in the tech industry is like, and also really hearing about what a profession would be, and start to understand, especially if you're a high school student, is this something that I want to build a career in? I'm getting this experience in the Summer Academy that feels like a co-working environment, feels like a day in the life of working at a software engineering company, and also hearing from these amazing people what life is really like at these awesome companies. And so that I think is one of the big pluses if you're thinking about a career in software engineering. Coming to the Summer Academy will really give you a taste. Most of the students who end up doing it just fall in love with computer science, both because they learn a lot about the industry, but they suddenly start to look at computer science in a way that it's a tool set to express your creativity, to express this idea you have in your mind and actually build it. And that's the thing that both Jeremy and I made us fall in love with computer science, and makes most of our students fall in love with computer science as well.
And I'll say, Ashu and I went through a program called Y Combinator in 2012, and we were very, very fortunate to get funding from them. And they're the same folks who funded companies like Airbnb and Dropbox and Reddit. And they created this 3-month program that we went through. So while we were teaching at our old high school, we were also getting to know dozens of companies. I mean, there were 65 companies that were funded at the same time as us, and Y Combinator has gone on to fund hundreds more. We became friends with a lot of these companies, and we knew, because we were really well plugged in, we knew that something had changed about what companies wanted in engineers, and that actually the fact that our students were product focused, even though they were programming every day, that the thing that they cared about was to use programming as a tool to make a great product, we knew that was going to make them more competitive in the job market. But it hadn't been externally validated in a formal way until somewhat recently. There's a company called TripleByte that does recruiting just for Y Combinator companies. and think of them as like a very elite selective recruiting firm. And they polled like 1,000 Y Combinator funded companies, and they got this incredible result that basically, if you are an engineer who is purely interested in the technical aspects of software engineering, you are less desirable and you tend to get less interview requests and less offers than if you are an engineer who is interested in using software as a tool to build great products. And so what Ashi was explaining about how on the job you can't just be thinking about implementing code requirements based on some spec someone gave you. You actually have to be thinking about the user experience and the product goals and be involved in that design, programming, and launching aspect, even if you're just a software engineer. That has been proven in companies' hiring patterns, and that's what they're looking for now. And that means that being a software engineer is way more exciting than it ever used to be. One thing that really surprises people, they walk into make school and it's not quiet, because people are talking to each other, they're talking through their problems, they're testing each other's apps. We have built-in time in the second half of the program for user testing to make sure that you get external feedback on what you're building. And so it's such a lively environment. And it's not like we're making it up. If you walk into a company like Facebook or Google and you walk into one of the offices, it's quite a lively environment. This is not, in 2017, this is not a job that involves staying quiet, sitting at your computer and just, writing methods that satisfy a certain spec. And that's, honestly, we wouldn't have been excited by it if it wasn't so much more product focused these days. Yeah. We're seeing a couple questions. Do you want to tackle?
Yeah. One thing I'll add on the last point. The proof is really in the pudding in terms of us realizing that the skills we're teaching in the summer academy are directly translatable to software engineering internships and jobs. We've had alums from our summer academy the year after taking the summer academy, go on to intern at companies like Facebook, Google, Snapchat, Tesla, and so on.
Dropbox, Apple, Disney,
anything you can name.
Square.
And usually they're getting these internship opportunities much ahead of their peers. So if they might be getting these opportunities as freshmen in college instead of as juniors or seniors in college, because they've actually had this experience of building and shipping a real world product, and also have this perspective of the product mindset. So one of the questions here was, what's the benefit of the summer academy for a non-CS major? So this one's quite an interesting one. For me, the value of the summer academy is not just on the technical side, but it's about product development as a whole. And these product development principles we feel apply to things or any type of product that you might want to build. For me, after I built my first software product, I went on to build hardware products for the iPhone, because the same process of ideation, user experience design, going into some deep technical expertise to learn exactly what you need to do, and this process of knowing how to Google things, knowing how to teach yourself and start unstucking yourself that you develop over the summer academy is quite important. And then thinking about how to market it, monetize it, so on and so forth. So that entire process applies to not just software products, but to other products as well. So that's one thing. If you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to learn how to build products, it's quite compelling. Now, if let's say you're interested in a career in something like finance or consulting, one of the things that even I was a little surprised to hear, last week we had...
I was going to bring this same story up, yeah.
We had a group of students from the University of Illinois, most of which were business majors, who had been doing a consulting project as part of their curriculum, helping make school study the landscape and do some analysis on who our customers are. And the number one thing that they were telling us was that even as a business major, applying to companies like top 4 consulting firms or finance firms, they needed to know how to code, or they would not have a leg up at getting their jobs. Every single one of them who knew how to code was getting way more interviews than their peers.
There was like 8 of them last week. And they were just like, if we had, some of them were underclassmen, so they were like freshmen, sophomores, and they were like, yeah, like we're going to learn how to code. And the ones who were juniors and seniors, they're like, if we only had known, no one told us. And so this fits into a broader trend, actually, which is every company is becoming a tech company. If you go right now to the New York Times, you open a tab to search for jobs at the New York Times. You get in their careers page, and you try to find jobs that require you to just be a journalist and just write. You'll find some, but you have to click around a lot to different sections, and you'll occasionally find a couple positions. They're mostly senior level positions. If you go to the tech jobs section, there's so many openings that you have to scroll and scroll and scroll. They're looking for engineers of all sorts. And I guarantee you, if you're going to end up working at the New York Times, you better be an engineer passionate about journalism. But the thing is, you need to know how to code if you want to be eligible for the vast majority of exciting openings at the New York Times. And that's a complete mind shift. If you're thinking, what does it mean to be in a world where to work for the United States' most famous newspaper requires you, or is more beneficial to be a programmer than a journalist? That's a complete mindset shift. And so what I'd say for a non-CS major, whether or not you realize it, the jobs that you're looking to get in some way, shape, or form either already prioritize applicants who have programming experience, and it will help you stand out from a purely practical perspective. You will get more interviews and a better job. And if they don't realize it yet, it is only a matter of time before your ability to be effective within an organization in any industry is greatly impacted by your ability to understand code, understand programming, and understand this product development process. So the value for a non-CS major is quite significant. And actually every year we get a pretty large number of students who are maybe CS minors or interested in computer science but discovered it too late in school systems, especially public universities, where it was difficult after their sophomore year, let's say, to switch into the right department, to be able to take CS classes. They knew they wanted to do it, but they didn't have access to the classes, or the classes were overfull. And those students have typically greatly benefited from the joining of their official major or area of focus and their ability to program. And a lot of the apps you see them make over the summer are some sort of union of those passions, where the app that they're developing could not have been made by someone who did not have their background experience and their expertise. And we love that, because when you come to these, the Summer Academy ends with this demo day, where students get to show off the apps that they've made, and we invite a lot of folks, families, friends, local industry contacts, and just the incredible diversity of apps that you see is tremendous. And the ones that are often the most striking, the most inspiring, come from a union of a certain passion that the student had that was not programming related, a certain area of study they had, or a certain depth of expertise they had, that they brought programming into the picture and used that to make an app that incorporated both of those things, and that's where it really gets tremendous. I'm seeing a couple quick questions we can answer here. The average age of students, I would say, depending on the location, between 18 to 20 years old. A lot of our students are in their last 2 years of high school or first 2 years of college, but that's an overgeneralization. We get a lot of folks anywhere from the ages of 13 to 25, and every year a good number of folks who are 25 and above. I think our oldest student ever was in his 50s, and every year we get a lot of students in their 30s and 40s, with the bulk being 13 to 25, and of that, the bulk being end of high school, beginning of college.
One thing I'll add on this, the diversity of ages is actually something that we are really pride ourselves on at the Summer Academy, primarily because when you throw a 13-year-old in an environment where the average age is 18 to 20, that 13-year-old starts to act like an 18 to 20-year-old. And it's an amazing experience to watch these students mature, where typically if you go to a summer program filled with 13-year-olds, they'll be, sometimes you have trouble getting them to focus or whatever it might be. We never have those problems because the social expectations and the culture that is built in the program is one of, you are here to build something that you have an idea of and bring it to life. And you're going to work hard, and you're going to go through this intense 8-week program to make that happen. And everyone just kind of clicks to fit into that mindset. And it's amazing to watch these students, even at young ages, be able to have such a maturity, both in terms of their work ethic, in terms of their drive and motivation, but also their communication and the way they really start to behave and act like adults. And I would say one of the big advantages of younger students doing the Summer Academy is really learning how to mature up. I mean, anyone in high school, when you're suddenly surrounded by a lot of college students, you get to really grow up, and it's an experience that Jeremy and I had when we went through Y Combinator, the startup incubator, because we were 18 or 19 and 20 going through a program with a bunch of 30-year-olds, and then we really had to accelerate our maturity to match that. And similarly, the Summer Academy can act as that experience. And you also get this diverse range of ideas where you have high school students building apps that are great for high school students, and you have college students building apps great for college students, and older students building apps that may not, the ideas there may not occur to people in different demographics, but you suddenly have a lot of cross-pollination of ideas, and sometimes things that come out that without this diversity of perspectives would never come out. And in addition to diversity of ages, we also have quite a diversity of different cultures. We had students from about 40 or 50 different countries come to the summer program in the U.S. last year.
Think about it for a second. Like, people flew in from all over the world to attend the Summer Academy, and that's something that we don't talk about enough, but is very, very special. And, what is it like to be in a room with software engineers who love making apps from Mongolia and Kazakhstan and Tunisia and Jamaica and the US and Brazil and so on and so forth? It is a tremendous, tremendous opportunity to connect with like-minded people from all over the world. And, not only cultures, but also experience levels. We have brilliant 14-year-olds working alongside master students in CS. And we have folks who've never programmed before, all accommodated in different levels. there was a couple questions actually that pertain to that. A question about whether it's possible to do the program 9 to 5 during the day. The answer is yes. A question about whether we need to do the online tutorials that are on.
So I think the question was, could you take the summer academy in addition to taking another course? If the course is 1 or 2 hours a day, then you would be able to dip out of the summer academy in order to go take that course and come back, as long as you're following along the materials remotely and making up the work.
Yes, good point.
Yeah. One last piece also I'll mention on diversity, and this is something in addition to international diversity. One of the things we're really focused on, committed to in the program, is improving our gender diversity and our ethnic diversity and socioeconomic diversities in the program. And so there's a couple different pieces here. We're generally very happy to share our statistics on this. Our numbers have improved each year for both gender and ethnic diversity categories. We had about 28% women in the last summer academy, better than the tech industry average, but still a long way to go before we get to gender parity. We had about 24% underrepresented minorities, which is getting closer to the percent of underrepresented minorities that makes up the U.S. population. So really happy to have amazing partners like Girls Who Code, Black Girls Code, Lesbians Who Tech, Thurgood Marshall College Fund, and a variety of other partners who are helping fill our pipeline so that we can help with tech's diversity problem. And this just adds to more of the different flavors of experiences that people have growing up with, and the types of problems they think about, and the perspectives that they can offer. And also one of the most compelling reasons to come to make school is you have this rich community that is all connected by this passion for making and creating things, but at the same time comes from all corners of the world, comes in all shapes and sizes.
Totally right. This is a good time to mention that scholarships are available for students in need. And there's a question about this. International students are as eligible as domestic students. There is no differentiation, though we do have to note that scholarships only can be put towards tuition. And so flights and accommodations are not covered by our scholarship system. But if you're not able to pay the full tuition and are able to pay for flights and accommodation, please do let us know. And in our dashboard, if you are admitted, there's an option to apply for financial aid and a whole process that we have for that. So don't let the price dissuade you. 50% of students who attended May School last year received some form of financial aid, and there's an official process to apply for that. Another question related to what you see in your dashboard: when students are admitted to the program, they see the option, of course, to enroll in the program. They see the option to apply for financial aid. They also see the option to begin on the online tutorials. And what does that mean? It's a good question. The online tutorials are some of the same materials that are going to be offered during the Summer Academy. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And the Summer Academy this year is being offered in multiple levels. We have an Explorer level for folks who've never programmed before or whose programming experience needs a refresher, typically less than a semester's worth of programming, maybe some self-taught, dabbling online, but no formal knowledge. We have an intermediate level for students who've typically completed at least a year of formal computer science education. A lot of students who've done AP computer science, maybe done a semester or two of computer science in college, fit into this intermediate level. And then we have an advanced level that accommodates students who already have apps on the App Store or have already held technical internships. Maybe they've already launched websites. They've been programming for more than a year, maybe winning hackathons, things like that. We are certainly able to accommodate all of this. To give you a sense, in part because our curriculum was used by MIT at the undergraduate level and Carnegie Mellon at the graduate level. And so we've been able to use the Make School Summer Academy curriculum as a 4-credit graduate course at one of the top graduate programs in the country. And that means, if you're worried about getting bored, like whatever level of experience you're at, we got something more advanced for you. So back to these tutorials in the sidebar, there's an opportunity when you arrive to the program to essentially level up to a different level. And so if you've been admitted to the Explorer level or the intermediate level and you're thinking you want to go one level up, doing the online tutorials in the sidebar is a great opportunity to get ahead and essentially enter the program, let the staff know, we can do a quick assessment, and after the first week, potentially level you up. So it's not a requirement, but it's an advanced opportunity to get more experience and jump in if you feel that you want to enter the program at a more advanced level. This content will remain available forever after, so when you complete the program, even if you completed the Explorer level, the intermediate and advanced content will always be there for you. And so there's a whole community of Make School students who are still coding, who are still launching apps, and if you want to further your knowledge, all of our materials remain available to you. We get a lot of students actually who come back summer after summer to take successively advanced iterations of the Make School program, including our most recent new program, which is our VR program only offered in San Francisco, where every student learns how to make a VR experience or a VR game. And that one the student, alums from last summer got featured at the Oculus Connect conference, and that was really, really exciting. And generally speaking, one of the first immersive opportunities to develop cutting-edge VR applications and games, and that one is super, super cool. It's kind of hard not to be, and if you're interested in that, San Francisco is the place we offer it, and we'd love, of course, to accommodate students, and that's only at the intermediate level or beyond, given that the VR program takes a little bit more advanced programming skills to get into.
Next question is, what are considerations for the scholarship? So there's a couple different ways to get scholarship or financial aid from the program. For these scholarships, it's usually done through a partner. So we have partner organizations like Girls Who Code, Black Girls Code, UNCF, and a variety of others that for members of their networks, are giving full scholarships to members of their networks.
And sometimes partial.
And sometimes partial scholarships. So this is done in partnership with them. Now, the standard financial aid offering that we have available to all students, separate from whether they're part of a partner network, is primarily for in-need students. And so if your family is in a financial position where they can't afford the full tuition, you apply for a scholarship online, you submit some tax documentation so that we can verify your things like your income level and your assets, and then based on that, we'll give you a scholarship offer. And usually the financial aid offers will be partial, so it won't be the full tuition. Occasionally, we're giving full tuition and financial aid, but primarily it'll be partial tuition based on your level of need.
There's a question about, are there levels, the Explorer, Intermediate, and Advanced in the Dallas program? And the answer is yes. All the United States programs have the levels that we described. Our programs abroad in Tokyo, Hong Kong, Beijing, and Taichung have two levels, a level for those who've never programmed before and a level for those who have, but not the advanced level. So just so you know, anything in the United States that you see offered will have different trackings and different content depending on your level of incoming experience.
Yeah. Now, that being said, if you are an advanced student who's already built a few products, maybe shipped a couple apps to the App Store, or taken 2 to 3 years of college CS courses, we would recommend you to come to San Francisco location, just because there are a lot of tech companies in the area, and we'll have lots of opportunities, and we'll have some of these opportunities in different cities as well, because all of our locations will be in co-working spaces, so you'll be surrounded by tech companies who potentially might want to hire you in the future, or you can learn from and have mentors. But in terms of the San Francisco location, because San Francisco is the heart of the tech industry right now, if you really want to get fully immersed, then and you're one of the most advanced students, would recommend checking that location out.
I think the New York location is just as awesome for advanced students. The New York tech industry is booming, and guess what? So in LA, and I think also in Chicago and in DC. So I'm not sure if I entirely agree. There's the popular thing. San Francisco is super popular, but there's also the fact, it goes kind of under the radar, that there's amazing, amazing companies, and they're often in different industries. LA has a lot more tech that pertains to entertainment. New York has a lot more tech that pertains to finance. DC has a lot more tech that pertains to government and government contracting, security, and so on and so forth. But so think about also your area of interest. But advanced students will be accommodated everywhere, and if you want to be in the thick of, at the mothership of tech, then certainly San Francisco will be the one. Students are asking, we'll be doing this next year too. Yes, this is our 6th year upcoming, and the 7th is around the corner.
For the next 1,000 years, every year we will be doing it.
Yeah. Timidayo says he'll be 13 in September, but not before the summer academy starts. Can he attend? We've made exceptions only in exceptional circumstances. So officially, no, but we'd have to talk to your parents and figure out if there's a way we can make it work. One way we've made it work in the past for exceptional students who were very mature for their age is that their parents actually came and were students alongside with them. And that was a lot of fun. And I don't know what your relationship is like with your parents, but if you're down for that, we'd be down to discuss it.
Or if you have a sibling who might be interested in the program as well, that can be. But shoot us an email at hello@makeschool.com. We would love to accommodate you. It's primarily, again, a question of maturity and whether we can get the right paperwork in terms of
parent sign off and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Benjamin has a great question about CS majors to take theoretical courses, linear algebra, data structures, algorithms, before moving on to mobile app development. And do we make that obsolete or fast track this? And I think it's a phenomenal question. And I think that universities often do it in the wrong order because they're beholden to a standard academic calendar and a more traditional course catalog situation where they have to decide what is the prereq for what and create some sort of sequence that is not very modular. What we do is, depending on your level of experience, we cover some of the concepts that you listed. So data structures and algorithms actually figure in our content, and we do it basically just in time. So we teach you the amount you need to know to be able to implement the features that you're going to do in the 8-week program. We do have a 2-year college program, and this is not the session to talk about it, but in that program we go very in-depth on a number of different topics. And there's, the Summer Academy is a supplement to traditional education. We can't go in and replace your entire CS major, but we can take the foundations you already have and accelerate you career-wise, thanks to the product development and real-world software engineering features of the program. So what we're going to do is we're going to cover some of those concepts, but only the subsets of them that are required to do the things you want to do. The more advanced of a level you're in, the more we'll go into it, and the less we'll review. So there'll always be something a little bit new. And if you already know everything that's foundational, so everything in the data structures algorithms realm that we cover, then it's very easy to skip past that and jump straight to some of our more advanced content that's iOS app development specific.
And a lot of the content that's covered both in the Summer Academy and the college program that isn't covered in traditional universities is software engineering best practices. Oh, yeah. And this is one of the things that's more prevalent in the intermediate and advanced tracks. But in the Explorer track, you're learning how can I just build some product that I'm getting together. I'm just learning, trying to piece something together. Once you're getting it more in the intermediate and advanced tracks, and especially in the advanced track, it's about how do I build this with strong code quality, with strong code architecture, and make sure that this is the kind of thing that is performant. Yeah, exactly. Maintainable. If, for example, there are a bunch of students working on a project together, or you're thinking about working on larger open source projects or going to work at a company like Facebook, what are the standards that your code needs to have in order for you to be a good contributor to that kind of team? There'll be a strong emphasis on that in the more advanced tracks to, again, prepare those students to get into to internships and jobs in the future.
Andrew asked, do people go on to the product college after the Summer Academy?
Yes. So last year, actually, about 10% of the students from the Summer Academy went on to the product college, which is pretty cool. A bunch of these students were already interested in the product college before they entered the Summer Academy, but a lot of you will come to the Summer Academy and realize, hey, actually, this education is way more fun than anything I've ever experienced in my life. And so a lot of students end up wanting to stick around. And actually, one of the reasons we started the product college in the first place is because we had a lot of students who were saying, hey, I've learned more in my CS degree, or more in the Summer Academy in 2 months than I have in 2-3 years of my CS degree. And this was the first time they'd really been engaged and passionate about their education, and they just wanted to continue. They wanted to do more of what we were teaching and focus on product development and the skill set that would help them have successful software engineering careers. And so we do expect a lot of students to transition on. Some also, if you're in high school, you go to the Summer Academy, a lot of students go on to top colleges around the country that are not the product college. So schools like MIT, Stanford, you name it, we have alums at those schools.
Every single one of the top 10 CS schools in the United States has a Make School alum at it, and most of them have multiple. We're talking about more than a dozen or half dozen to a dozen people at schools like MIT and Carnegie Mellon and Stanford now. And then there's schools that are not in the top rankings for CS, but in the top rankings overall, like Harvard, Columbia, and Princeton, that also have multiple Make School alums there. And that dovetails nicely into the question from Dina, what feedback have you received from colleges about the effect this program has had on students? So we can talk about that in 2 categories. We can talk about the high school students who come to our program. And typically what this unlocks for Make School, what Make School unlocks for them is an opportunity to present a more compelling picture of themselves to colleges and their applications by demonstrating, showing, not telling their passion for computer science and giving a differentiator that most students just don't have an app on the App Store at this point, right? A number of our students have come back and said, I made my whole application essay about my Make School experience, or about the apps that I learned how to make and how they impacted me and the communities around me, and have gotten into great colleges and come back and said, oh, it was thanks to you. Literally, I remember Robbie Gordon, I got into Harvard thanks to you. And we have, students, Mr. Hoff, I'm a Columbia admissions officer, was very impressed by my Make School experience and wrote about it. This was actually so noticeable that we got a call from the admissions office at the top 2 computer science universities in the world, and they said, hey, we noticed a lot of our students in our CS major went to Make School. Can you open one on campus here? So not this summer, but in 2018, if there is a make school on campus of the number 1 or 2 CS university in the world, you will know which one I'm talking about. And they, in fact, called us to let us know that they saw so many of their students having come through make school, they wanted one on campus as a funnel for them to recruit. One of
the things I'll add there, it's quite interesting that on the employer side, employers are starting to look more at what you can build as opposed to where you went to school or what tests you've taken and so on and so forth. The effect that this is having is that same set of standards for admissions to companies is being now used by colleges. And so one of the big reasons that that the school that Jeremy mentioned called us is that they're starting to look at different metrics than just traditional GPAs and SAT scores when they're looking at students who have exceptional experience as makers. And they really want to look at building this concept of a maker portfolio that you can apply not just with, here are the courses I've taken in school and here's my GPA, but actually if you're the kind of student who hasn't been paying that much attention in class because you've been building all this cool stuff and you like built an electric car in your garage, they want to know that and they want to see that because that is a different signal. That's not the same as the GPA and SAT score signal, but it's still a signal nonetheless that you'd be a great fit for these schools. And so for us, they really see us as a way for students to be able to build these maker portfolios and really show that they have the work ethic and the drive to be able to spend 8 weeks building a product that they're really passionate about and go from start to finish and put in the work necessary to go out and build successful products. And this is the kind of things that they will be doing in their career. And so when colleges see students like that, they're like, we want you because we know you're going to be really successful after you leave our doors. So it's a really great testing ground that in 2 months students can really prove their worth before getting into schools. And we use the exact same thing for our admissions process. For a lot of students, we say, hey, we'd love you to come to the summer academy to really prove how fast you can learn, prove how much you can grow from day one to the end of the 8 weeks. And show us what you can build and show us that you really have a passion and the drive and the work ethic to be in it day in, day out and build something great.
When it comes to feedback from colleges, honestly, we don't get that much feedback from colleges about the college students that come to our program. But here's what's interesting. We get feedback from companies. And also, as Ashu used this term earlier, like the proof is in the pudding. And one of the things that's really interesting is that students who don't go to top schools, who come to make school, end up at top companies. And that's for exactly the same phenomenon that Ashu was describing, that the selection criteria have stopped looking as much at your GPA and the brand of the school you're going to and have started taking more into account. I mean, the world is not perfect, don't get me wrong. People still like nice brand names, but it's so much more about what you've built than it ever was before. And one of our alums who's now full-time at Google, when we met him and he was coming into the summer academy, he was a community college dropout. And to go from community college dropout to a make school experience to be then, ending up at Google is a really, really big deal. And that's an amazing best case. But there's a lot of these examples of students who are going to schools that are really good, but don't have necessarily the fancy brand names, or schools that are not so good, and come to the summer academy to supplement. And the feedback we get is from the students and the employers that they're actually much better positioned to hold internships in tech than their peers would be at any class of institution.
Yeah. Another funny anecdote is that one of the top, or the dean of one of the top 5 business schools in the country, actually came out to San Francisco and he asked to meet with us, and we're like, sure, yeah, we're happy to meet with you. And he gets there and he's like, after chatting with me for about 30 minutes, like, hey, can I take a picture with you? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I'm not sure exactly why. He's like, my son is in love with Make School. He definitely wanted to go to your program when he is going to college, and he would just die if he found out that I got a picture with you. And so it is really, really interesting to see that even the folks running some of these institutions that have been around for hundreds of years and have built the brands that they have are starting to look at Make School, in part because their kids are like, hey, this is really cool, but also in part because they see us on the forefront of educational pedagogy, some of the flipped classroom stuff that's become very popular with Khan Academy and has been propagating through K through 12 that we sort of stumbled into but are now helping pioneer at the collegiate level. And it's really cool to start seeing that these institutions are taking notice of what we're building here. We had a group of students from Harvard Business School come and visit Make School to see what innovative models are happening in technology. And a lot of my friends who are in various MBA programs have said, yeah, when we're in like education business courses, one of the big case studies is Make School and hearing about what you're up to.
People fly all the time from Japan and China to come and visit Make School and try to understand what we're doing and how we're doing it. Given that we're running just past our allotted time, I wanted to answer really quickly a couple of the questions that were still pending. Benjamin's asking, could we launch an iOS app at the end of the program that we could launch and maintain? And I'd say that's very attainable for the intermediate and advanced courses. The Explorer level, you will launch something, but it will be a simpler app derived from a template that we provide to you, and you'll be in a position as soon as the course ends to make something more complicated. That something more complicated you'll make during the course in the intermediate and advanced. Every year, some students are too ambitious. They don't finish exactly on time when the course ends. But by and large, the majority of students do submit an app to the App Store, and there is a focus on making sure the app is launchable and maintainable. Dina asks, how do we select instructors outside of San Francisco and New York? And actually, we centralize our instructor hiring and training. So every instructor, no matter where they're from, gets flown into San Francisco. We do a big training program here where they all get on the same page, go through the same material, the same processes, so on and so forth. And then we fly them out to all of our locations. This means that where someone is from and where they're teaching doesn't always match. We have instructors from San Francisco teaching in Tokyo. We have instructors from New York teaching in LA. I mean, it's really an amazing sort of cross-pollination of cities and cultures, but it's all centralized in SF. The hiring funnel is in one place, and everyone that you will get taught by, no matter whether you're in Dallas or in Chicago or in Tokyo, is Silicon Valley trained and Silicon Valley selected.
Yeah. And we've had a lot of our instructors excited to go and see a different part of the world or a different part of the United States.
It's a cool opportunity.
And we've actually had an instructor teach in, I think, about 4 cities. Just
New
York,
comes back Tokyo, San Francisco, Sunnyvale.
And this year he'll do
this year he's doing a 5th.
Cool. So the last thing that I want to end on, Jeremy, can you tell me your favorite thing about the Summer Academy?
My favorite thing about the Summer Academy, he's putting me on the spot. He didn't tell me he was going to ask me this before. I think my favorite thing is the I'll answer with 2 parts. The first is seeing a moment in the middle of the program when students are just starting to make their own apps. And it's a moment where everyone in the program gets, like, emotions kind of run high. Because you've just finished the tutorials and we're throwing you in the deep end of the pool and we're saying, great, you've cloned a couple apps and now make your own. And that week is so challenging for a lot of students. We see in the feedback forms every week, it's like, I'm not sure I feel prepared, I don't know if I can do it. And that sets the seed for my favorite moment, which is at the end, on the demo day, those same students who that week is always in the 3rd or 4th week are always feeling like, ooh, whoa, this is totally a new experience. Like, how are we going from I clone something to making my own thing? And we work a lot to, bridge that gap and make it doable. But still, there is that feeling of getting thrown in the deep end. And the payoff is in that demo day, the students who are there presenting on stage, talking about the apps they made, and the smiles on their faces and just the delta between that day and the first day they have to work on their own app, where they're sitting there at a blank screen in Xcode going, okay, I've never built something from scratch from a blank screen. Like, where do I start? Seeing that journey progress and seeing the payoff is by far my favorite part. How about you? What's your favorite part?
So one thing that I think is quite special is not only is the Summer Academy experience that was very much derived from my and Jeremy's experience of teaching ourselves how to build apps at an early age, it's also an experience that we feel is incredibly important for anyone in the world to go through, both because, again, they can learn how to build products and also these technical skills. It's like a second language these days in the economy. If you want to get a great job, you need to know how to program, or at least how programming works. And we believe this so much that we tell all of our employees who have not built apps before to take 4 weeks and just take a part of the summer program and learn how to build apps. And we're so committed to this belief that it will help them in their jobs. They will become better, even if they're in operations, or even if they're
admissions.
Admissions. We still think it's important for them to learn these skills, and we're really eating our own dog food by sending every single person who works at Make School to participate in the summer program and learn these skills. So we really, truly do believe it. And I think that sort of relates to the second favorite point, which is we've had employees build some awesome products. One of our team members, Nikolai, has built both a game 1 year and built an app
awesome
the second year. And I myself, a couple summers ago, spent a lot of time working on an app called Jukebox that I've yet to ship, but maybe this summer I'll finally get around to shipping it.
It's a bad example for the kids, never shipping.
But it's cool because we all, especially when you're working in startups and you're working in tech, you have these cool ideas. And even if it's in my case, the idea that I wanted to work on was not necessarily something that I wanted to make really big, but it was something that I wanted to build for myself and for my friends to use. And so I decided to work on that, and it's just this experience, this again, like you have this idea, this emotion, this color in your mind that you want to share with people, and being able to go through an experience where you're just surrounded by all these passionate students who have these ideas. They're just buzzing. They're so excited, and then just really seeing the sparkle of them talk to you about, here's why I decided to design it like this. Here's what I want to build. Here are the features I'm going to have, and here's who I think it's useful for. That there's an energy there that is very unique that anyone who comes to our demo nights has seen before. And if you look back at our Facebook page, there's a Facebook Live of a demo night that we held last week, last Thursday night.
Check that out.
You'll see the students pushing
Amazing.
what they're building. And that energy is so infectious. It's just amazing to see these students be able to express a part of themselves and be able to share that with other people. So I think that experience of creating and sharing is one of the things I love most about the Summer Academy.
All right. I'll finish. Vinita Gupta, you're in Tempe. Well, we have housing in some of our locations, including our locations in Asia, like in Beijing. You want to be part of Make School? You should contact our team, hello@makeschool.com, figure out which locations offer housing, and move out somewhere for the summer to participate in one of our programs. And with that, thank you all, and we'll answer any unanswered questions in the comments, and shoot us an email at hello@makeschool.com if anything else comes up. Sweet.
Bye.
Bye. Actually, bye.